I don't give up, if you can't tell. I've been a fighter my whole life.
With her back against the wall, this single mother began to create out of necessity, and Elizabeth Sutton Collection was born. With no art training, Liz first picked up a paintbrush in 2015 and thrived under pressure. Today, her best-selling designs are sold at Bergdorf Goodman, Neiman Marcus, Harrods, and Saks, and she has several celebrity collectors, including Kendall Jenner, Kourtney Kardashian, and Andre Bocelli.
I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I grew up a modern Orthodox Jew. I went to a Jewish school. My parents got divorced when I was 13, which was probably the most impactful thing in my life, definitely in my childhood. I moved to the city when I was 17 after we graduated. Started at NYU, didn't like it, switched to Baruch, studied marketing and finance, worked in wholesale fashion while I was in college for a company called Parker. Got married right before I graduated and stopped, didn't work, I became a housewife. Then my life just started going downhill, you know, after a couple of years of being a very privileged Upper East Side, spoiled housewife, and it created my career.
Up until this point, you have pretty much nothing to do with art.
Nothing, zero. When I had my son, is right when we lost our money. When he had told me that we lost our money, I was in the middle of a very fancy renovation on my son's nursery, and I had a specific vision, and I could no longer afford the art that I wanted anymore. So I picked up a paintbrush on a Sunday for a craft day. I made my first paintings, 3 small geometric abstractions, put it on Instagram, and then somebody reached out to me saying, I just moved, I love your art, can you make me something?
Okay, so you're 25,
I
post those pictures, you put that picture on Instagram, somebody reaches out.
I said, sure, why not? And I sold my first 2 paintings for a grand total of $850, which is a joke. Over the years, I had done collages and glitter art, and people had, complimented my art and asked me to make them stuff, but like I didn't need the money, so I didn't take them seriously. And when I did need the money, and that woman hit me up, I hit a bunch of them up and said, "Are you still interested?" And they said yes. Some of them said yes. I made them artwork. I would be delivering it. I put it in the lobby of my building for 5 minutes while I pulled my car around from the lot. 2 women in the building had asked, like, the doorman, saying they loved the art. The doorman told them that I lived in the building. They became clients. And I grew up with a lot of real estate babies in New York City. I hit up a bunch of them and said, could I put up my art in your lobbies, your model apartments, to try and get exposure and also interior shots of my art hanging in spaces. They said yes. So I just started to, that's really how it started. Right before this all happened, like in October of 2014, while I was still pregnant, one of my best friends was hit by a bus, and then I miscarried. My marriage was also on the rocks at the time, to be honest, obviously. It's all happening simultaneously. When you have such a serious loss, like, it forces you to internalize and reflect. And I realized I was very unhappy. I knew I was getting divorced with no money and with 2 little kids and no experience. But I was like a little housewife. I didn't know anything. I knew I'm the personality type that works best under pressure. And if I put enough pressure on myself, I would have no choice but to perform. 6 months after my divorce, 2 of my art assistants were in a car accident in my car, leaving my birthday party the last night of Art Basel. My friend and assistant, dear friend, like one of my closest friends, Juan Salazar, was killed at the age of 27. Pedro was sitting over there also. Thank God I made a full recovery, but he had bleeding in his brain. It also happened that, like, I went from the scene of a party to the scene of a traumatic accident by myself at 4 a.m., nobody picking up the phone, to the scene of a trauma unit, to waking up my friends from sleep, literally, like, out of a big bad dream, to tell them that there was a serious accident. They had just left the party too. Finding information from 2 wives I never met, to tell them to come down to Miami. Their husbands were just in serious car accidents. That Thursday, I was supposed to have an opening at my pop-up gallery in the West Village. It turned into a memorial fundraiser funeral for my dead assistant. I started a GoFundMe to raise money for his daughter, 3-year-old who he left behind, and my assistant, who was still living but in the hospital.
Did you just want to give up after that?
No, I don't give up if you can't tell. I've been a fighter my whole life. I didn't even stay in bed for one day. Like I had interns at the time, I didn't have an assistant, I still was not where I am today. And I told them, like, do not let me stay in bed. Like I am not, like staying in bed crying, like what's that gonna do for you? I'm now like 100 steps back. So like I didn't have the liberty, right, of being sad. And I hustled myself a deal with Joe and the Juice. I was walking at a store under construction. In their window, they had a vinyl covering the window that says, this color would look great on your Instagram. I said to myself, as an expert with color, this color is actually pretty, no offense, I love Joe and the Juice, but boring, right? Like, I could do something for them. I literally said, Ricky, find out who the head of marketing is at Joe and the Juice and let's email them that I want to collaborate. I literally sent an email saying I'm the queen of color, born and raised in New York. I want to collaborate. And a week later, I had met with the CMO of Joe and the Juice, and I scored a collaboration, which like was at the time of my career was a big deal to work with such a big brand on such a scale. So right as the car accident was happening, a woman I met named Barry Erber, she owns the largest luxury girls accessories line in the country. She said, do some designs for me. If the buyers like that, your name will be in the stores. I designed these clutches for her. They got picked up by Saks, Neiman's, Nordstrom's, Bergdorf's, Harrods. And so, you know, that was happening while Joe and the Juice was happening. So I was doing that with Barry. I did Joe and the Juice. I decided to launch my own clutches. End of 2018, I somehow hustled myself a deal with a company called TileBar, a licensing deal. I designed 3 luxury water jet marble collections for them. We showed at the Arc Digest Design Show. My collection won Best in Show. Then we showed at the HG Expo in May. It is the largest hospitality convention in the country. There are 16 product categories, millions of designs. My tile won Best in Show, design specific, for anything that goes on the walls. That was probably the biggest honor of my career. So 2019 was probably like my biggest year ever. 2017 was like Liz is teaching herself how to paint, getting divorced, and I don't know what my plan really was. 2018 was spent healing and coming back to life, and Joe and the Juice, Barry Lynn, signed TileBar. 2019 was spent developing kind of like a growth strategy. I focused a lot of time in R&D. I found a factory in Mexico City that could produce leather. So I started developing 3 product categories in leather: saddlebags, belts, and bag straps. Invested a lot of money in molds. I own my butterfly shape. It's my trademark in 28 product categories.
What made you pick the butterfly?
They became signatures in my work. I told you I taught myself one process in the beginning, and I kind of morphed this shape, and the butterfly obviously has a lot of symbolism. It's transformation and hope, and I decided I was going to launch an e-commerce platform. I had never had a proper website because I didn't have consumer product to really sell. I got chosen to paint a prestigious installation called the MP Pool Party. It was in its 5th year as the first female to be chosen. I painted an 8,500 square foot pool deck right here in Roosevelt Island. It got covered by Arc Digest Spain, Time Out New York wrote it up as the 2nd most spoken about thing in the summer of 2019. Curb, the New York Post. My art was also included in the Holiday House in New York City in support of breast cancer with designer Vanessa DeLeon. She used my art in her space. It also got covered by Arc Digest. Arc Digest covered my work 5 times in 2019, and between 2019 and 2020, and I don't even have PR. I also got a deal with the Eden Rock in St. Barths, probably my best deal to date, although it got messed up because of quarantine. And I designed 2 exclusive limited edition clutches for their gift shop, as well as they were supposed to host a solo exhibition for me for a week in March, as well as host my 30th birthday. The show was supposed to commence in March. We got quarantined literally 2 days before the show was supposed to start. I've been working on that deal for a year. It will, God willing, happen again. I launched a placemat collaboration. I got hired by Janovic for a deal. They are the largest paint suppliers in New York, the largest Benjamin Moore distributors in the country. They came to me as an expert with color. I created 5 curated color palettes for them exclusively using Benjamin Moore colors. If you go into any of their 10 New York City locations, you'll see a big poster board with my face and my art and my palettes. They also wrapped 4 45-foot buildings with vinyl murals of my artworks. Decided I was going to start wholesale distribution, got myself in a bunch of high-end stores. I also did a collaboration, and I'm working on a collaboration with Blatt Billards. They're the most elite billiards company in the country, and they gifted me a $12,000 pool table to paint. It is literally my art baby. I've never created anything so nice in my whole life. I did I was invited by the New York Botanical Garden to do a table, to design a table at their annual orchid dinner at the Plaza Hotel.
And now you're talking with a equity investor.
I have capitalized this business myself. And one, I am not in a financial position because of my divorce to keep doing that while still being able to, one, sleep at night and think calmly and rationally, right? Like focus on a long-term strategy instead of immediate short-term dollars, because I have a chicken and egg problem. And I feel as though I'm finally at the right point where the capital invested will exponentially grow my business. A big strategy for growth of mine is within the realm of real estate and development. So ideally it was a person who had connections in that world. And when COVID hit, I launched 3 free coloring books. I was the first artist.
How did you think so quickly that?
Do you see how fast I talk?
I
I
do.
think 10 times faster.
You mentioned some trauma and challenges growing up between your parents' divorce and girls saying mean things to you or about you. Does that ever fuel you today? Does that ever come into your head and make you want to make it even?
Nah, I don't care about other people and proving them wrong. I have nothing to prove to anybody other than myself. The reason that I have my thick skin is because of that, right? Like way more so than from like my parents' divorce. That I had to be independent and, kind of figure things out myself. And I really did a lot of healing and hard work, right? Like that's not easy stuff to confront and dig into. Everybody has problems. Trust me, the people who look the prettiest often are struggling the most. Don't let exterior, appearances fool you.
You hustled a lot to get your name out there. Were you always a hustler?
I don't know. I don't think so.
You weren't working. You didn't have that business head yet. But it seems like you had the personality because you're able to go call Joe and Juice and say like.
So I was always like an energetic person. I was always a straight A student, right? I graduated with a 3.9425, but like I always did what I needed to do to achieve what I wanted to achieve.
Where do you see yourself in 20 years?
Right now, I probably work about 100 hours a week. By 50, I'd like to have established my own philanthropic foundation so that instead of raising for other charities, I can have the Elizabeth Sutton or Miro and Nora Sutton Foundation, whatever we call it, and allocate funds accordingly to causes that are important to me. I would love to be working, let's say like 60 to 70 hours a week instead of like 100 plus. I love to work and I will never work 40 hours a week, but probably scale back a little. But I just want to be happy and surround myself by good people and healthy, because I've had lots of things and lots of things, and I've realized that materialistic riches mean nothing unless you are happy inside.